Hey guys! Thought I'd take a few to talk about my opinions of Wuthering Waves so far. I have a lot of thoughts. Most of them are positive, I'll be straight. I'm really enjoying the game so far. It's not all perfect though. There's a few things that could be improved upon. Maybe they will, I don't know. We'll start with one of those things right now. As you might have noticed, I was kind of dabbling in the Japanese voice acting. And I've played a good bit more since my last video, and it's just I've kept it in Japanese. I'll be straight up. I've kept it in Japanese because the English voice acting is really bad. Not necessarily like the voice acting, like the voice actors, but it's like they have absolutely no direction. Like they all pronounce things differently from each other. They can't even say like the other character's names the same. And then like you have, for example, Yang Yang seems to be the only person who's like trying to put like Chinese enunciation to a lot of the words. And it's super distracting. Not only does it like sound weird to my ears because like we don't use like tones in English, right? That's not something that really exists in English as far as changing what a word means. But when she's the only one doing it, it sounds like excessively weird. Like if everyone was doing it and everyone was pronouncing like Huang the same way, it would be less odd. But with her being the only one doing it, it makes it sound really odd. And then also like the editing is off too. Like, for example, if there's more than like 2 lines of dialogue, then the scene will just end and it'll just cut off mid character talking. It's like distractingly bad. So it's like it's not necessarily the voice actors. It's like they never told the voice actors, hey, this is the kind of thing that's going on, you should be reacting like this. Hey, this is how you say this location, or how we're having everyone say this locations in English. So we need to get you to like retake that and like say it in this way so that it's consistent. It's like nope, it's not. And to be fair, I'm gonna be making a lot of comparisons to Genshin in this just because it's a comparable type of game. It's the one everyone knows. Hoyo's not like completely innocent of this sin either. There's a reason that it was kind of memed on for a while that no one really knew how to pronounce Liwe because all the characters said it differently. But to be fair, they are usually a lot more consistent, right? Like there's very few things that are like pronounced differently between characters that it's so jarring that you're like, okay, you're getting taken out of the game. The English voice acting in Wuthering Waves literally breaks my emotion. It's so bad. That's why I've switched that to Japanese. We're weebing out because of that. On the topic of characters, I would say that the character design is actually really, really good. Not quite Hoyo level on average. Like, I don't know what the fuck Hoyoverse feeds to their character designers, but those guys are on another level. But, especially with some of the men, I think Wuthering Waves is actually a little bit better, or at least comparable. I didn't expect the characters to look as good as they do. Like, when I first saw some of the pictures of the early character designs, I was like, they kind of look kind of shit, you know, kind of giving me Tower of Fantasy vibes, but they fixed it, and then like they actually look really good in game on average, and then you got some characters like Jian and Yinlin that they're fucking phenomenal. And I'm also a sucker for my boy Kalchava too, you know, my son. And the characters also look really, really good in the art style that they're done in. That's another thing. The art style and the environments are amazing. Like, I actually might like this more than Genshin, to be honest. Which is shocking to me, right? Like, again, I saw initial, like, screenshots, pictures. I thought it was gonna be gray and boring and really shitty looking. But, like, no, it is amazing. It looks so pretty. Some of the scenery you can get, the variety and the environments, like, it is so good. Like, there's such, like, unique and interesting landscapes that you don't usually see, and, like, that don't exist in, like, Genshin or, like, a lot of these kind of games. Like, it's, like, this whole, like, it's, like, nature meets post-apocalyptic world, but it's still, like, really colorful and got really beautiful lighting in places. It's like, oh my god, I love it. I love it so much. So that's a W for me. Like, I was not expecting it to be as pretty as it is to look at, but I think this game is gorgeous. On the topic of the world, we got exploration. The exploration is also amazing. I think the world puzzles are really fun. They're like, most of them, they kind of vary in difficulty. Most of them are pretty easy, but not like too easy to where it's boring. There's a good mix of like mechanics that you can find in the world, so it's not like you're just doing the same thing every time. And it's not like too much. Like, I feel like sometimes Genshin is too much. Like, they'll introduce a new region with a new mechanic for a chest, and then like you have to do like 50 chests with that same mechanic. And that's it. It's like, okay, this is cool. You put this in the game. It's really neat. Can I stop doing it now? I would like to do something else. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I think like the variety, at least from what I've played. Maybe I'll get. That's the thing too, right? Like, I've played more than I've posted in recordings. The other recordings are coming. Don't worry. But so far, I'm not sick of any of the world puzzles. Like, I think they're all really good. And there's even a few, like, rare things that you can find in the world that are also really fun. Like, I found a few mini-games and shit, which are like, oh, wow, I can't believe they put this in the game. This is fun. Like, there was one that was like, a side-scroller mini-game. Like, it had to do a platformer race. It was like, what the fuck? What is this in here? But yeah, it was cool. It was enjoyable. We'll see how I feel, you know, later into the game. But right now, I'm having a lot of fun exploring the world. And the map is, I think, I'm not actually sure. I'm going purely off memory here, so I'm not sure. I think the map size is smaller than Genshin's was at launch. Because Genshin, I think, launched with, you had all of Mondstadt, including down by Storm Talon, and then you had all of Liyue, I think, at launch. So, I think the map is smaller, but it doesn't feel smaller, and it feels more enjoyable to run around, I think, again, because of that variety, but also how condensed things are, right? Like, I know mapping out 100% of Mondstadt was annoying for me, because a lot of it was running around just empty, grassy plains with nothing but flowers there for a couple minutes until I finally found something that was interesting. So, like, you don't have that in this game. Like, the map is smaller, but you take 2 steps and you're like, oh shit, what's that over there, you know? So that's really nice. I like that. I'm very much enjoying that. And then the movement, too, around the world. The movement's another thing that is just amazing. You can run up walls, you can vault over, like, pretty much anything. You can grapple up to places. Actually, I really like the grapple hook, too. I use that when I'm gliding as well, to just, like, get extra height. Like, I do that a lot. It just feels so smooth. And the only time I ever get stuck, I feel like, is when I deserve to get stuck. Like if I'm trying to run up a wall and there's like a fucking walkway above me, it's like, yeah, obviously I can't get up the walkway. I'd have to like Spider-Man upside down. Like, then you like go around the wall and you find another way up or something, right? Like, it makes sense. It makes sense. It feels good. I very much like it. When you're exploring the world too, you find those echoes, right? That you can equip. And then like you have the element like bonuses if you have like a bunch of the same type of echo. And then of course you want those echoes to have main stats that kind of match what you want for a character. It's almost like, I don't know if there's relics in this game. If there is, I haven't gotten that far yet. But it kind of feels like relic farming, except you're doing it kind of open world. And you know, you're hunting mobs and then they have a chance to drop an echo, and then that echo has a chance to be different rarities and have different stats on it. And it feels good to do. Like, it is unique, it is fun. I am having a lot of fun with it. I haven't found a shiny yet, which kind of makes me sad. But maybe eventually. But it also gives me a reason to fight things around the world. Like, you might have seen this in some of my my Honkai videos. I'm not sure. I'd usually cut out the running around the world parts a bit, just to have the story in there. But when I play like Honkai, Star Rail, or I played like Genshin Impact back in the day, like, I'm the kind of person who I will just skip every mob that I can if I don't immediately need it. Like, if I need a certain material, then I'll go farm them for a bit, but like, I can't be asked fighting every mob in front of me. I am a trash mob skipper to the extreme anytime that I can. So in this game though, I feel like I want to fight a lot of the mobs because I'm like, they could drop echoes. I'm gonna catch all the Pokemon. Like, like it has awakened something in me. It's awakened my creature collection and tendencies. So I like the echoes. It's like a little extra reward you get just for like fighting things that you should be fighting anyways if you want me and just trying to skip everything normally. On the topic of fighting things, the combat, which is like probably the chief like goal for this game. One of the things people have really been looking forward to since Genshin is like super easy. The combat is super fun. All the characters that I've played so far, I haven't played very many, to be fair. To be honest, I only have a few that I have right now, that I've played. And then I've done like character trials. I've done a couple of the companion quests, which have let me kind of dabble in some of the standard banner 5 stars. All of the characters that I've tried have felt very different to play, which is awesome. That's also always kind of a concern when you have, you know, action games where it's like set types of weapons, right? Like these ones are monks, and these ones use a one-handed sword, and these ones use dual swords, and these ones cast spells, or, you know, whatever the hell they are, those ranged attacks. I don't really use as much as that for Baiji. But like, so far it's like they do all feel different, right? Like they all have the different skills and the different attack patterns and the different combos they can do, and it's like they feel all different to play, which is amazing. The intro and outro skills are awesome. They feel very unique, at least to me, right? Like, I don't know if this is a system that has been in other games like this that I just haven't played. But to me, the intro and outro skills is a very kind of unique mechanic. And it works really well to, like, give you a good reason to switch characters and a reason to synergize characters when you're making up your teams. And then, of course, you have multiple teams because some enemies are, like, resistant or weak to certain elements and stuff. So it's like, you know, I'm not gonna... When I'm farming, like, the ice turtle to get those bells, I'm not gonna bring my Sanwa with me because she can't fucking hit it for any damage. Even though right now I'm usually using her for the buff, it's like, okay, I'll swap you out because it's like, no, you can't attack this. Right? And if I was finding something that's resistant to Electro, I would need to get something to replace Galtravo because he's my main DPS at the moment, and it's not gonna work. So it's like you still have reason to have multiple characters and multiple teams, and then you synergize them around the intro and outro skills, and it's just, it works so well together, man. I like it. The gameplay is also, at least so far, right? Keep in mind, again, I'm fairly early on in the game, but it feels like it's not too challenging for someone even at my potato skill level. Like, actually, I'm able to get through the game at this point pretty easily. I have the healer on my team, but I don't usually have to use her all that much. So I'm pretty sure that somebody even who's more casual than me could probably get through this, like, to experience the story and the exploration. Which was kind of a concern, right? Like, I heard people hyping up the game as like, oh, it's gonna be like anime Dark Souls. Like, although I've kind of played that already in Code Vein. But it's gonna be like super challenging to the point where, like, oh, only the hardcore players are gonna be able to play. It's like, no, you don't have to actually be that crazy good at video games to, like, actually hop in and enjoy the game, which is nice. And then I have also heard that there is harder content later on that I haven't gotten to yet, but, you know, the hardcore players seem to be enjoying it, so it seems like there's variants and options for people who are casual and people who are more hardcore and looking for a challenge, which is great. Honestly, that's how most games should be. I feel like you should just have a varying level of skill options so that everyone can kind of enjoy your game. Right, unless it's one that's made specifically to be a hardcore game, but you have to, like, acknowledge at that point you're missing out on your casual audience, which is a lot of people. So it's nice that this game kind of lets you go in even if you're maybe not the most skilled gamer, or you're just looking for a casual game experience and you don't have to worry about it. But then it gives something to the people who do want to, like, try hard and have something that's gonna really push the limits of what they can do and make them, you know, build the shit out of their account and then have them rewarded for it. Like, oh wow, now I can kill this thing that was really hard before and it's a lot easier because my characters are just so strong. And it's like, that's good. That's good. I like that there's variance One thing that could stand to be a little more accessible, we actually got a something of a negative here. We got 2 negatives coming up. We'll start with the first one, right? The character screens are kind of word soup. Like, it took me a while to actually figure out how this shit worked, even with the little tutorials. How it worked, what my characters did. They have character tutorials that you unlock after a little bit where you can go into kind of a try mode with characters that you own. But it didn't really help me much. Like, maybe I'm just stupid. Actually, I know I'm just stupid. But there's a lot of text that doesn't really need to be there on the character screen. It was a lot to read and figure out, especially when you're dealing with an all-new combat system. And to be fair, this is entirely just lack of experience, right? Like, obviously, once you're playing the game for a bit, then you get used to how the systems work, and then you go into the character screens, and you can go through the word soup, and you can be like, oh yeah, no, this makes complete sense to me now because I'm experienced with the game. It's just kind of a learning curve that's a little hard to get over, and I don't know how they would even fix that. Maybe just a little better tutorial on the characters and make maybe the character tutorials a little sooner accessible. Because I was like a good few hours in before it actually gave me the option to go into tutorial for the characters I was using, and I was just button mashing. And it's not like I needed it, right? The game was very easy at the beginning. But it would have been nice to know so I could stop practicing on what I actually needed to do to play the characters. That's a nitpick, though. A bigger issue than my nitpicks is the early story. I guess the best way I could describe this is like, it's like going fishing, but you just have a worm and you have no hook. Like, you've just dangled a worm in the water and the fish just comes and eats the worm and then swims away. Like, the intro is very interesting. Like, I went in and I was like, oh wow, this is cool, what's going on? What's the deal with the god? Who is Vovo, right? Like, what, you know? You got the bait, you got me baited in the beginning. And then I'm just walking around asking, like, people about a piece of candy and a fruit, and, like, and it goes on for way too long, and it's like, and you lost me, okay, and now we're reading files, okay, I'm dead, bye. Right, and then we get to the point where, without saying any spoilers, when you meet Scar. I'll just say that much, right? Once Scar enters the story, now I'm reinvested. The story's got me again. But there's like this weird gap, and it's right near the beginning, which, like, it sucks because that's people's first impression of the game. So maybe they'll kind of tighten that up a little bit. That would be nice, because that first little bit of story it's boring. I was kind of tuning out. One other negative that they, I think, already are working on, is the performance. Now, personally, I have had 0 issues with the performance. Like, the game's been gorgeous, the game has run smoothly, I've had absolutely no problems. But, I'm also playing on PC, and I'm playing on a pretty good PC. So there's that. I have heard that a lot of people have had really bad experiences with the performance to the point where it's, like, unplayable, which is obviously a bad thing and needs to be fixed. But I believe that they are already working on fixing that. Which is really good. They responded to people's complaints, like, super quick about the performance and said they're gonna fix it, as well as making other improvements, which I hope include the early story and the English voice acting.
In inner Huanglong, while Jinzhou is in outer Huanglong.
But hey, we'll see. So yeah, it's bad that the performance, like, sucked out the gate, but not completely unexpected for launch, and at least they're responding to it quickly. And on the note of Kuro Games, this is my last point, which is not directly game related. It's actually the company. But I think it's worth pointing out because obviously the quality of the company will in the long term determine the quality of the game, right? So I like Kuro Games so far, right? They've been very quick to respond to the issues the game has. They've been very quick to be like, okay, you know, we're rolling out a patch like Saturday to fix it. You know, right then there. Just, here's an issue, we'll fix it, which is good. You love to see that. And they've also been very generous with the compensation for the problems, as well as, obviously, the intro gifts. Like, I've been getting free wishes out the ass, and then I think tomorrow, as of recording this, we're also getting a straight-up free 5-star selector, which is insane. just because some people couldn't run the game. Which I understand is a big issue. But, like, a 5-star selector? Like, that's huge, dude! That is nuts! And that was on top of another 10 wishes! So, like, they've been going hard on the freebies, and they've been quick with the responses, and, like, you gotta love that. You gotta love that. I am gonna say, on one hand, though, like, you know, my bit of cynicism here, we should take this kind of with a grain of salt, just keeping in mind that this is a gacha game company with their game at fresh launch, and they are doing their best to lure people in and complete with the juggernaut that is Genshin Impact, right? So they're, like, it's fully in their best interest to be as generous and attentive as possible right now to try and lure players in and try to get them hooked to their game. The real test is going to be how they act, like, months from now, when they're doing maintenance and running in-game events and yada yada yada. So just keep that in mind. But my first impressions of the company right now is super positive. And as a whole, right, final thoughts, I suppose. My first impressions of the game as a whole is very good. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I will keep playing it. I'm probably gonna pull for my general, even though I should really be saving for Yinlin, but you know, I have a... I'm starting to realize I have a type and it's hot generals.